Fucking let's see what happens. Today on the Tim Marner Podcast Show is our friend Mark Murray from WHYSUP. Mate, how long has it been since I seen you last? Well, I know I saw you the other day, but before that, how long has it been?
About 4 or 5 years but maybe longer than that. Maybe 5 or 6 years when you did this brand, which was a turning point for us. Obviously, seeing you in when Frank was born in the supermarket. Yeah. You got me on one of them mad photos.
Yeah, them mad photos. The selfie, Mark.
Yeah, well, yeah. And on there, so we had that photograph in Morrison's on aisle 5 or whatever it was. And then, it's been like passing ships in the night, and you just, business is just like that, and you go in different directions, don't you? But
I remember when... Because, when it first started off, it was like the Mark and the Liam show, weren't it? Yeah. I remember going up to you, to Liam's house and then teaching you how to do videos. Yeah. Do you remember?
Yeah,
and we were on the window, and then you two doing your thing. And
yeah.
It just seems like, fucking hell, man.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, them videos, God, I was uncomfortable. I'd say I've got a little bit better, but still...
A bit better?
Well, yeah.
Come on.
No, but I'm still slightly... It's funny, I was in the gym the other day and someone said to me, I could never do them videos like you do. And I say, I'm still a bit conscious, you know. He's like, no, not rubbish. And I know I am. But compared to what we were like then, that was like new to us. And I had this thing in my head that as much I was proud of what I was doing, I was still a little bit conscious, really thinking... God, I've got a bit of colourful past. I've upset people in the past. Who wants to see me on a video? So I had all them things going on in the background, and you was telling us to be brave and bold and get out there. And I'm thinking, people are going to be watching this and irritated in some way. I'm just self-conscious of it, which I think a lot of people are when they're doing videos, aren't they? Yeah.
So obviously Liam's not in the business anymore, mate. You've gone like your separate ways and stuff like that. How has that transition been from like Liam leaving and you taking up full reign? How tough has that been? Yeah,
it's had its challenges. It's almost, look, when you're in business with someone, you're like a married couple, aren't you? Yeah. And everyone knows that. It's like you're in it together. Sometimes you want to go in different directions. Sometimes you have clashes and stuff. So you know, in one breath I was like, great, I'm rowing my own boat. But then there's times where you miss having that person to bounce off, especially when your back's against the wall. That's been at times challenging for me, of thinking, well, I'm on my own with these decisions now. So it's got its pros and cons to it. But yeah, Liam was a part of WHYSUP maybe for 6 years. Always one of the founders and stuff. So... part of that journey, but I'm on my own journey with it now, and I didn't want to reinvent the wheel, but then you've got your own ideas, which is exciting. My best ideas as well sometimes come when I'm just in bed at night and I write some of my notes on my phone, and I like that creative side, that I've just got free rein, that if something comes to mind and I think, you know what, this would work, I can shape the business. But yeah, it's got its pros and cons to it.
Tell me that story about like what happened with your son again. What happened? Where were you? Why up there? Because that was a tough time, that weren't it for you? That.
Yeah. So I bought Liam out because people always think we're a charity, but we're a limited company. So I bought Liam shares off him, and that was a big moment because I was sort of saving up for a wedding. And then I had to say to my partner, like, we're going to have to put this back. It's going to all be about buying the business now. Part of that money as well came from a loan. That brought a lot of old memories back of me pressing loan buttons when I was gambling. So I had a lot of emotion with that. And then went back into work. We do a lot of work in the gambling space, and we had funding pulled, but that's business, right? But that was quite challenging because it was a big part of our work. And then you sort of transfixed on, it's work, and that was like my main priority. Don't get me wrong, my child at home was a young child and my older boys, but out of nowhere my son became sick, my eldest son, and you know, I became a young dad. My son's 25 now, but he was 24 at the time. And when I say been sick out of nowhere, he's got ulcerative colitis like me, but he went in a bad flare. He got food poisoning, ended up being hospitalised, and was in there for about 6 weeks. Well, he was in A&E for 27 hours when we first took him in and was losing blood and things. It was horrible to see, and that's a bit of a slap in the face when you something like that happens. And then I had a lot of like emotions going through me when this was happening with my son, because I always wanted to be a good dad, and I had this moment when I was on his hospital bed when he was in Bolton Hospital and he was quite sick, thinking, I'm so glad I'm not stuck in addiction anymore, because I wouldn't have been there for him. Or I may have been on the end of that bed, but I wouldn't have been thinking about Callum. I would have been thinking about my own shit that I had going on. But I fought his corner, and I was supporting him, and I was staying at the hospital some nights.
So with all the work that you've done on yourself, you were able to be present in that moment for Callum.
Yeah,
wow. It's powerful, mate.
And resilient. Don't get me wrong. I think when you're going through these moments of a loved one being sick, you're on autopilot. So I was just running on adrenaline, and my mum kept saying, and people, you're handling this quite well, and you know you're being brave. And I just thought, well, I've got no other choice to. It was just autopilot. I'm there for him. The crash came a bit after this, but at the time, it was just fighting his corner. He then got discharged from hospital after 6 weeks, which was too early. I remember him still losing blood, and without being too graphic, colitis is a nasty illness at times, but he had a virus as well alongside it. He was losing blood. And then he got sent home, and then I was at the office. It was always like, right, he's out of hospital now, it'll be fine, I can go back to work and just catch up on some things, because running your own business is tough, right? And I had to bring money in to provide for my family. So he then rang me at work, and he was just sounding weak on the phone, and he said, Dad, he said, I need to come round. I've gone round his house, and it was not the nicest of scenes. He lost a lot of blood. He looked like he was dying. So I rang my mum up and said, Mum, we need to take him into hospital. And we rang an ambulance, and they said it's best you just get him in the car. And he'd lost that much weight after 6 weeks at that point. Me and my mum just like picked him up. He was like a feather.
Jesus.
And we took him to Bury Hospital because I knew there was specialists there for colitis. So I went to Bury Hospital, and they basically just did his obs soon as we got in and rushed him into this room, which is the resus room, and his heart was doing all weird and wonderful things, and I'm looking at it thinking, is something going to happen here? Is he thinking, is he going to die? And I know you've not got much time to think. In the back of my head, that's what I'm always thinking when it's your loved one. I'm just thinking, what if he dies? What if he dies? And they managed to bring him back round, as I'm not saying from near-death moment, but what I'm saying is he was very sick, and they ended up giving him some treatment that day, and he stayed in for another good few weeks, maybe another 6 or 7 weeks. So he was very sick, and then he got out, and again he got out, and I'm thinking, this is the time he's going to get in front now. He's on these new meds, he's going to be okay. So I said to my missus, and I'm not with Callum's mum, I'm Rebecca, who I'm with now. We were out for a meal, but then I think we're going to go to the lakes or something like that. And I just got this text message on my phone. It still sticks with me to this day. It was Callum's girlfriend saying, Callum can't speak, his face has dropped on one side, food's dropping out of his mouth. So I'm just thinking, he's had a stroke. So I said, please get him to hospital as quick. His girlfriend was really good. She took him to hospital. I've whipped the car back round. I remember reading this text message to Rebecca, who loves Callum to bits, who I'm with, and she burst into tears. And I'm thinking, all the way to the hospital, he's had a stroke, and got there, he couldn't speak. He was sat in the waiting room, so I'm like, then, what the hell's going on? Get him seen quick. And they were toing and froing and waiting for an MRI. It's weekend, they said. It's not, the machine's not open or something. I'm like, what's going on? And cut a long story short, they came to me and said, we suspect you've had a mini stroke. And he's 24, and I'm thinking, however, his speech started coming back in the hospital, and I'm there, like, sat with him, and I waited till, I'm thinking with my mental health hat on then, I'm always thinking, not wise up, but like, how is he dealing with this? because he's quite like laid back, our Callum. And I just sat him down after everyone left the room, and I got down on my knee and he said, "What are you doing?" Like, he said, "You're not asking me to marry you." He's always like joking. I said, No. I said, "Callum, are you all right?" He said, "Don't give me a wise up speech now." And I just started laughing. I said, "But Callum," he said, "No, I'm not. It is what it is," he said to me. I was like, "Oof, you're talking about it is what it is. Like you're gonna you can't go to watching England now in a few weeks. You might not be able to fly." I am. I said, "You might not be able to do, and this mountain bike that you've got coming up in Morsine," so he goes skiing there, he goes mountain biking, he's Thai boxing, he's a bit of a addict, but an adrenaline junkie. And he said, I'm going. We never got to the bottom of what happened. It was like, it's a seizure, it's this, it's that. Look, I'm training with him at the gym now, he's weak on one side, we know it was some form of stroke, but it's just, you're trying to comprehend how he's dealt with it. I'm just looking at him thinking, wow, like I was delivering sessions on resilience, and actually then putting a picture of my little boy, he's 25, he does Thai boxing, and he's a joiner and got a beard, and I call him my little boy. He's there like bouncing back, like just dealing with it of like, F you, I'm dealing with it. And he went to the Euros, England first game, puts a photo up of the fans in the crowd, and who's there with his England flag? It's Callum on this photo. It was this poignant finger thinking, he told me he was going to go. And then, mountain bike picture, he's there. I'm ringing him all the time saying, "Are you all right?" Like he'd lost, I'm not joking, he just looked like it on death's door. He'd lost that much weight. His legs were just stick thin. But he's there on his mountain bike, and I admire him for what he's done. And I don't think life's all about just like keep attacking things. Sometimes you need help and all that, but he's just like bounced back from it and recovered from it. Something I'm really proud of. And I'd tell him, but he'd think I were being a little bit, he don't go there with emotion sometimes. He's like, yeah, it's right. However, what I will say, when he was in hospital, I feel like he knew how much I loved him, which was nice. We were like, some days I'd stay at the hospital with him and we just lay in bed at night and he's on a drip and I'm like just laughing my head off with my son, and yet he's really sick. We were just having this bond that I just kept thinking back to when I was in a difficult place. I would have not have been there. I probably would have nipped to the bookies when he was lying in hospital, if I'm totally honest, because I couldn't deal with it. I would have been thinking, this is too much. I'll just nip out to the bookies and go and gamble. And then when I'm in the bookies, I'm not thinking about anything then. It's like medicine really back then. I've not got that escapism now. I have to sit with pain, stress, trauma, whatever it might be. I have to sit with it and deal with it like we all do, right? You can't just.
And how did you deal with that going through Callum? Because obviously you've got WHYSUP, you just bought that. Who's running WHYSUP? Well, Callum's happening on. So like, what?
Me on my phone.
How did you do that then? From a
autopilot.
And is what it is mentality, or
yeah? Do you know what? I had this thing of like the business. And it does still to some extent now. We've grown as a team, but it's still too reliant on me a lot of the time. But ultimately, things waited. I spoke to clients and said, my son's unwell. I was just completely honest and said, I'm sorry. They were great. Some, sadly enough, were great, and then brought it up that it was an issue and said, like, we're cutting ties. And I was like, hell, so it weren't. It was an issue then. But in a way, it is what it is. How did I deal with it mentally? Well, I run on adrenaline. I then got back to work after the last hospital stay of this mini stroke or whatever it was. Got back to my desk, sat there and just burst into tears. I'd not cried for years. I'd not cried even in that moment. I tell you what, I did cry when me and my mum carried him in hospital. That time I went out and cried, and my mum came out and I said, is he going to die here? Like I was thinking he's not going to get through. But I then cried when I got back to the deck, and then I thought, I need some help here. And this is how I've changed. I cried, I ring home, I say, I'm not well here. This has hit me like a ton of bricks, because for the last 3 months it's been adrenaline. Now I'm expected just to carry on delivering services on well-being when I'm completely broken. I need some help. Right, let's do that. I go back to my Gamblers Anonymous meeting. That's my recovery support for my addiction. It's not that I was going to gamble or even thinking about it, but it's a community, it's like-minded people. They get the way.
I wasn't expecting to say that.
Yeah.
To get help.
Yeah, I went there, but then I've got a therapist that I've had for 8.5 years, and went and seen him and was like, I need some help. And to be honest, I've been in and out of seeing him anyway, so it wasn't this thing where had a massive break from therapy. I've always had that support, but I sort of rode it out of, this is where I'm at. And then I thought, I'm not going to go to work and pretend that I'm okay. So when I delivered at British Aerospace the next time, they wanted me to deliver a session on resilience. So I delivered my addiction story, and the second half was on stress and resilience. And I'm going to say, but that boy in my first half of my story, I'm going to tell you what has just happened to him. And I shared the story, and they were like, no one knew I was going to talk about it or even knew what had gone on. And they were a bit like, bumf. It was pretty raw, that, because I was still living in it. So there were times where when I was saying,
you were triggering your
I was going and my voice was going. But I've always had that approach with Wise Up of it's authentic. It's like, just because I'm in recovery, or I know I've got this support network or I've got that, life can still come at you hard, and I'm not standing on stage pretending that I'm okay when I'm not. And I've not got all the answers when it comes to well-being. I just try and share my experience, or others who share for Wise Up share their experience, and you take what you want from it. We're not gurus, we're not learning out of a book. We're saying, this is what we've overcome, this is what we still face today, and this is how we deal with it. And I just think I stood on stage and spoke about it in a strange way. Might have done me some good, that.
By talking about it.
Just talking. Strange, really, when you're doing it to 250 strangers who you've never met before. But it's funny, because then people came up to me at the end and was like, I know someone this has happened to, and everyone's got a story in that audience, and everyone's been through something. So
when you are delivering, you're on stage and stuff, obviously you're kind of saying the same thing a lot, aren't you? Because obviously, you've got a thing.
Yeah.
How do you still keep your energy up and stuff like that, even though you've delivered it so many times? What is the...
So some people in this space say they don't feel like they're telling their story. I do every time. And I don't just share our story. We deliver 15 different services in education. Sometimes we draw upon lived experience if we're talking about a specific topic. But if I'm doing a lived experience share and it's to an organisation that I've never met before, I'm sharing my story. I've got a structure to that story, but some days I can go down a path with it that doesn't happen the day before. It's always a little bit different, a bit fresh. How do I keep it fresh? I just try and talk from here. It's never, I feel like I'm telling someone else's story, but that comes at a cost, because when I'm talking about things that have happened to me, that have been a massive impact on my life and caused trauma at times, and losing.
So you're like re-traumatising yourself in a little way to keep.
Yeah, a little bit, and maybe that I'm saying it like a badge of honour here, when I'm talking about authentic. Maybe it's not the best thing, but I believe it's the best way to connect with the audience. Yeah. But I remember going into therapy and saying, I'm burnt out with work, and I'd done 17 days on the bounce of sharing these things that were traumatic.
Yeah.
That being attacked, me and my mum not speaking for years, becoming a dad at a young age, I'd not dealt with things, losing my cousin to suicide. I'm constantly talking about these things, and it catches you sometimes. So you've gotta try and look after yourself. I've got a good support network around this job, because there are times where I can burn out with it.
Yeah, it's tough. That I always thought about that, mate. And obviously you're delivering to people each time, aren't you? And then when you are delivering it, because it's new people, it's really easy to get up here, and I see people on stage when they're talking from the head and not from here, and you're just like, you've done this too many times, and you're actually not connecting with like your thing there. I just wondered what it was like with you. Yeah,
I try and just put effort in all the time. I'm not polished with it, but I want to give the best possible session to someone. It's not just a lived experience story, because that'll only take you so far. We've got a lot of educational content.
Yeah.
So I'm always learning and trying to develop. If we're talking about addiction, what we would have spoke about 7 years ago, 8 years ago when we set it up is different now. We talk about addiction in its own right, but we talk about phones, we talk about ketamine, we talk about social media, all these things that are a part of everyday society that are normal for people, but we're dealing with full-blown addiction. So I've always got to be upskilling myself and looking at things that I am seeing from primary school students and these addictions that young people are developing and habits.
What are some of the things that people are developing habits of, mate?
Yeah, it's, I mean, when we started Wise Up, we thought addiction, right? When would have someone spoke to us about addiction? And they didn't really. It might have been a teacher mentioned it once, but we thought, right, year 9, we don't want to be talking to year 7 students about drugs. Yeah, you do. Yes, you do.
What's year 7? How old's that?
Year 7's 11. There are year 7 students that have been vaping for 2 years. We've done a survey in Bolton, anonymous. When did you start vaping? Vaped since I was 8, 9 years old. So they're already full-blown addicts at that point in year 11. How did you get access to vapes? Parents, older brother or sister, bought me as a treat, all these things, and you're thinking, wow. Yeah. Then with things like iPads, games, I'm like that with I was always one of them dads, my kid's not having an iPad, it's going to be barriers, and to some extent we really try with it, but sometimes our head's burnt out, and it's like, I've watched that iPad 15 minutes and Frank's working his way around this iPad, and I'm like, wow, what a different time. But back to your question, the digital world has changed everything. So young people are already showing signs of addiction with iPads, with phones, with gaming. Gaming's a massive one. Also with gaming links to gambling, things like FIFA packs, loot boxes. Kids in year 9 maxing the mum's credit card on loot boxes, and I said to him, what was going through your head when you were spending that money? He said, I didn't think, I was just pressing a button. It's all virtual, it's all, at your fingertips. The biggest drug I would say that young people are addicted to, when we started, it might have been weed and cocaine. Weed's always been consistently there, but ketamine's the one that I think.
Really?
Yeah.
The horse tranquilizer?
Yeah, 231% rise in ketamine. Cocaine in the last 4 years probably been 7% rise. Ketamine's 231% rise. And it's the one that I remember growing up not too far from here, and there's a lot of teenagers experimenting where I lived. I'm not saying it was everywhere, but with heroin. I remember being in a tent and watching teenagers smoke heroin when I was 10, going home to my mum and saying, what were they doing? But that's where I was brought up, but it was a load of lads in my area that were quite cool, to be honest, and were experimenting with the drug, not knowing. They actually thought it was something that cool people did. Mm-hmm. And then we saw lads lose their life at 17, 18, and we'd hear these names. He's died. So as a youngster, you're thinking, how's he died? And it was because of this. This is what I'm seeing with ketamine, where you almost don't get a second chance with a drug. And I'm not saying you get chances with other drugs, but this one, because of the physical impact that it has on you and how it affects your bladder. I'm working with some young kids now who are 21 years old who've got a permanent bag, who've lost the bladder at a young age because of the damage to it. It's not the substance that they're addicted to. They're actually addicted to using it because it helps them deal with the pain that ketamine's put them in the first place. So it's crazy. And it's not always, I've just mentioned, I got brought up in this working class area and people were taking drugs with all sorts. Like I've just got someone in a rehab now. He works at a solicitor's. He's a young lad. He's a young, handsome lad with all his life in front of him. And he's being put in his bedroom and locked door, and he's jumping out the window to go and score it. And it's everywhere. And what the digital world has changed is how accessible it is. So if you rang a pizza now for your lunch from it might take 45 minutes. These kids can get drugs in 5 minutes at the school gates. Snapchat, there's QR codes on lampposts, scan this and it goes through to your local drug dealer. It's frightening. That's not to say to scare anyone, because I've got to be careful sometimes just talking about the negative, and to some extent I think we've got a responsibility when it comes to mental health. Everyone's just talking about the negative, and if you keep focusing on the negative when it comes to mental health, you will find problems. So kids now who might be going through a tough time may go back to, it's my mental health, I'm struggling. I think we've got a responsibility not just to talk about the bad. Let's talk about finding balance with things. Let's talk about, if it comes to social media, it's a part of life. If you just start saying it's bad, it's addictive, it's this, it's not going to work. Social media can be a brilliant tool to change your life, but it's about balance. However, with things like ketamine, it's not about balance, it's just about not messing with it. It's frightening. But
Can't believe that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes, because I go home then and think, I become a dad again, and my 3-year-old and my little girl, I want to wrap him in cotton wool. And I spoke to her head last year I was quite close to. I said, it's impacting me working in school sometimes, because I'm then going home. I said, you can't do it. And to some extent she said, this has always been the case when I've been a teacher, and she was the head now. She was saying, I've always had that, but you've got to try and remove yourself from it, because there is still a lot of good things happening with young people.
Yeah.
And you've got to also put yourself in their shoes. They're growing up in a different world than we did. Like, I'm glad social media wasn't around and phones when I was at school, because we had connection, didn't we?
Yeah,
we had knocking on your mate's door, and if you couldn't get hold of him and he didn't answer his house phone, you were screwed. There's a phone box not too far from here actually, and I used to go and put 10p in that and ring my mates, and if they didn't answer, your 10p had come back out, and I'm like, oh God, what brilliant times. Now, access.
The thing is, stories come out of them times, don't they?
Yeah.
I couldn't get audio, so I had to do this, and then because of that, this happened. It's like,
God, it sounds, I don't know if I should admit this on a podcast. Me and my mates used to get 10p, and about 6 of us in a phone box ring sex line number, thinking it was this naughty, it was just like advice on things. I still remember the phone number, 0800 28 29 30, and there'd be 10 lads like ringing, hello, and they'd just be putting phone down, but like all growing up.
10p, fucking hell.
But that's the thing I'm noticing as well about.
I mean, move on to that, mate. We'll talk about sex addiction, porn addiction. You know, what is that like in?
It's one of the fastest growing addictions in young people. And funnily enough,
compared to ket, where is it at?
So I'd say you've got consistent ones: phones, social media, porn. Ket seems to have really spiked over the last few years, but I'd still say them other ones are up there with it.
Yeah.
But with porn, it's quite funny actually, because in our addiction session, I put a Pornhub logo up there, or whoever's facilitating puts a Pornhub logo. If we had a camera, we might actually do it. If we can get permission to do this, watch people's reaction when they see that logo, right? They all start laughing. So if you've got a problem watching porn and the reaction is, I'm going to get laughed at, if people find out about this, and a lot of young people are addicted to it, it's also causing damage to the relationships, the way they think sex should be, the way they communicate with each other. There's a lot of violence linked to it. But they all laugh. And I always say, can you imagine having a problem now? Well, I see young people who've got a problem with it, and it might be on our mentoring program that we actually see it, that this is something that they are using, because it's literally phone access to it. It's dangerous, but yeah, I'm working with someone now, or in talks with them, because they're from a lived experience background of struggling with porn. They went to rehab for it, and they've set a clinic up now. And I think the average age that they started watching it, I'm sure, is between 8 and 10. What? Yeah, that's what he said to me, and I remember thinking, I'm looking at my little boy now, and you've got to be really careful with what barriers we put, and it's the phone, right? The phone and the iPad or whatever it is seems to be the gateway, and I don't think we've even got the long-term research to see the actual impact that it has had on the last 20 years. So I'm really now trying to go back and think, right, I've got a chance here to really put strong barriers in place. But it's still hard, because another thing that Frank sees me doing is me being on my phone, and I'm convincing myself it's my work emails. So now it only last week come home and went, right, I've got to get something on the phone to drop it in a drawer when I get home, and that's out of the way. So I'm not perfect at it. I'm a recovering addict. Things can get out of balance for me. Sometimes it's phone, sometimes scrolling when I'm feeling a little bit rubbish, jumping on a thing and just having a look. It's not good, is it? Yeah. So I just think we've all got to make a conscious effort to really put barriers in place, and strong barriers, because it's just...
But what I was saying before though, mate, is it barriers or boundaries you should put in place? Because I feel that barriers are sort of definite line, and with a barrier there's no balance.
Yeah, but bit of both really. Boundaries, but then sometimes if it's getting out of balance for someone,
bang.
It's about bang. Like me with gambling,
yeah.
There's a thing called Gamban.
Called what? Gamban?
Gamban, and you can put it on your phone, so you can't access it. So to me, that's a barrier that I can't get to. Right. So sometimes with young people, they do need, if it's already got, if you imagine a problem,
if it's got out of hand.
So a habit, something you control, then it becomes problematic. Then it can lead to addiction. Where we need to get young people and adults is at that problem stage. If there is negative consequences happening, if you become agitated, discontent, and feel like you can't live without it when that substance or behaviour is taken away, hang on, it's got a little bit out of balance here. What can I do to change it? And at that stage, you can probably do things yourself to control it. When it gets to addiction, and it's hard this because a lot of young people don't know they're addicted to phones, as adults don't. I think it's like you need to put some real things in place, and sometimes even need to speak to a professional and learn about addiction and what it is. Because a habit you control and addiction controls you. If you ask a young person, are you in control of your phone or does it control you? They might say it controls them. They might be out for a family meal and they can't stay off the phone. Take that phone away from them, they might become agitated, discontent, and feel like they've lost the right arm, or sometimes smash the bedroom up. You go and take a phone off a young person now and they might just do that. It's frightening really how addictive they can be, and they're designed for that, right? That's what they're designed for. And I'm not saying it's all bad. The phone, for me, it's great. For my business, it's great to stay connected. In the pandemic, we were disconnected. Great, you've got your mate on FaceTime at night. Great, but finding balance with it is terribly tough sometimes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I did a video about it the other day about like not being comfortable with their own company, and they've got noise in their head, and to silence that noise, then they need some other noise, and they can't just sit with it.
Yeah.
So
I was like in rehab. I did 9 months in rehab. I had my phone taken off me for 9 months. We used a phone that was like a pay phone on the wall to ring. My family weren't speaking to me at the point, so I had no one to ring, but eventually I used that phone. And I promise you now, having no smartphone for 9 months, my brain was on fire with ideas. I felt like I could take on the world because I had no distractions. And that's when I started thinking about this. It wasn't wise up as such, but I'm thinking, I want to help people, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I believed it. I was like, I can do this now. And then I didn't get a smartphone when I come out. They give it me back. I'm like, I don't want that. Let's get a Nokia 3310. And then before you know it, you feel like you need one. Yeah. Oh, your mates are on WhatsApp. Yeah. Right, I'll get a smartphone. I'll download that.
Yeah, I'll just have that, but I won't do the other ones. And then
with me, I'm lit up like a Christmas tree. Wow, Instagram, this is good. And before you know it, you've got all the platforms, and it's just notification. And I struggle with it. Struggle with finding what balance is.
That's the key, mate, isn't it? The balance side of it. So that happened with Callum.
Yeah.
Everything settled down after that? Yeah. Or did other things happen?
He's in Thailand now.
Is it?
He's had 2 flurs since, and they always seem to be on back of gets food poisoning or something. Right. He's in Thailand now.
Shout out Callum watching this, mate.
Yeah, with his brother Mackenzie, they both there with the mates.
Amazing.
Great time. Cal gets food poisoning on first night, so I'm like, oh God, what if he's hospitalised over there? He's in Thai boxing gym this morning. He's been on a drip, but Callum was all right. What happened to me then?
Yeah.
Mycelitis followed.
Right.
So I got that therapy, and I always have this lag with mycelitis. When I'm going through it, my symptoms don't just change overnight, but that pain and trauma is going to come out. So after about 2 or 3 months, I have rosacea, I've got autoimmune colitis, my skin starts going bad, and I'm thinking, I'm becoming sick here. Start going to the toilet more, start losing blood. And then I became sick. There were times where, God, I was having... I've got a photograph on a stage up there. I don't usually admit this, but I was struggling with incontinence. I was still going to work. I had an accident in a reception of a school. When I say accident, I was like losing blood. I got changed in the toilet, cleaned myself up, put my pants back on, and I've got a photo stood in front of 250 kids talking about resilience and well-being, and that just happened in reception.
Come on, mate, that's resilience.
Yeah, but also quite saddens me because I was sick. I was like sick of... I was sick. I was like... I felt... I always say when I'm in them moments, I'm just like... I feel like... I don't cry, but I'm thinking, God, why is this happening? This is horrible. But the irony in it all is I'm talking about bloody resilience. They didn't know that day. That's not something when I'm saying I'm authentic. It's like I've gone, by the way, this has just happened. Because people sometimes are like, bloody hell, another thing happened to him. But but luckily I got some help for it. They're on about me losing my bowel at one point, but I started a new medication that was good. Did a lot of natural things. Managing stress for me is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Obviously,
all starts in the gut, doesn't it?
Oh, massively, and that I just saw interlinked. So it came out of me. There was no way that pressure that I went through was just going to get dealt with, and there wasn't going to be a crash. But in that, my back was against wall with work. I was struggling financially, and I'm thinking, in a weird way, there's been times where my back's against the wall and I go in work and I'll just say, come on, you bastard. And it takes me back to struggling, to having nothing, losing my wage, and then thinking, how am I going to get from one month to the next? I said to Beck, sometimes I thrive in, and she laughed, like, you don't want to be thriving in them situations all the time. But it's that, the fighting back for me sometimes gives me a bit of something to fight for. It then became, I felt like I was starting a new business. I was like, I'm sick, but come on. Don't get me wrong, there were times when I'm like, this is hard. Throw in the mix, my daughter then is born, a new baby, supporting mum. Mum got sick herself, had postnatal depression.
Did she?
Yeah, which was tough. And what I realised then as well, me doing this job and being there for others, some days I would get home and Rebecca would need me.
And you're not able to be there for her?
I was, but I wasn't fully. And I'm like... So I went again to therapy and went, actually, Rebecca's more important. My job's important, the people are important to me. I always give people my time. But I was giving everyone everything and being there for everyone. Someone who I love to bits is struggling, and I'm going, oh God, I'm emotionally drained myself, or just not dealing with it. So I what I'll do in that moment is say to Rebecca, I'm really sorry, I've got burnout here because I want to support you more and I can't even do it because I'm burnt out. So it's always...
So are all these things just happening one after the other?
Yeah. I got sick of telling people.
And did you not have a bit of breathing room in between anything,
really.
like just like one after the other?
Not really. I felt guilty on my daughter Elsie because when Frank was born, I had a son at 16, a son at 18, had this massive gap, sorted my life out, and then started a family again. And Frank was like almost like this new baby that had come along. Elsie came along when I was I got salmonella, food poisoning, I had a flare, I was sick. When she was literally giving birth back, I was literally in the toilet next door thinking, oh God, I feel sick. So I then was just like surviving day by day, still trying to keep my business afloat. And it was tough like going through it. And yeah, there just didn't seem to be no let up. But Elsie was born in September, and I got a little book made, and in that book I say, I feel like crying now, I say like, I'm sorry, these first few months I've not been there for you, like, so she can read that when she's older. So yeah,
Look, man.
that does make me soppy talking about Elsie and talking about my kids. Yeah, so but she's got a dad back now. She's got a dad back, and
how is Bex now?
Bex is great. Bex is God, we're so similar in a lot of ways, me and Bex, but then so different. She's, if I'm having a win, she just ignores me.
That's the best way to have it.
I'm like, she's just diffusing it in some way. Even if we have a disagreement.
It makes you even more annoyed.
Yeah, I'm like, in my head, we're going to break up, and I'm like black and white thinking. She's just like, what are you talking about? It's just like, I'm like, wear me out on my sleeve. And all this. In the midst of all this, just to complicate things, I'd been in therapy. My therapist said, you know you've got ADHD, right? And I'm like, not really, no.
You never thought that before?
No.
Not even an inkling?
No. And I work in this space, right? But I didn't think it was this serious thing. I just thought, I was always listening to people going, I've got that. So I thought, well, if everyone's got it, it's not that serious. But what I was doing is doing all this work on myself, still feeling emotional, still feeling burnt out, still a massive overthinker, still sitting watching a film, and Bex goes, what did they just say then? And I'm thinking about 10 other things in my head. Bex says stuff to me, and I'm like, I respond the wrong thing because I'm not thinking about that. My mind's always elsewhere.
Yeah, you're not present, are you?
So when I was fortunate enough to go, right, I'll get a private diagnosis, and I got that pretty quick within 2 weeks, and I was off the Richter scale, but then was almost left with, well, what do I do now then?
What do you do then when you've got...
So you've got options for therapeutic help and support, which I already get, but maybe I thought, well, is there something specific to ADHD? And sort of medical interventions with medication. So what I did is I left it for a good few months and thought, no, I'll be fine. But instead, keep having these crashes. Running your own business is tough at times. So when they diagnosed me, they told me the challenges that I've been facing and I'm going to face. But I went, well, tell me something good about it. Like, what's good about it? And they said, you're creative and you're resilient. I'm like, I'll take that. Yeah. So that then put me off thinking, if I take this medication, that is going to dampen my sparkle. And I've learnt about it that it doesn't. And only a few months ago I tried the medication, and it was the amphetamine based, and it felt like I was going Wigan Pier, and it took me back to a feeling of being on drugs, were drugs that
jittery,
I sat at my desk, I didn't eat any food, and I got through all my work. I had cold sweats. They told me it'd be like that, but with my job, I just thought, I don't want to feel like this if I'm having to. I always feel like that's a point of the job. I always feel like I've got to be on top form.
Yeah.
So I very rarely drink now. I would never go into WHYSUP. I don't really have hangovers because I don't drink that much to have an hangover. I drink 3 or 4 times a year, and I just felt I don't want to do it. And they've said, look, there's other things that you can try, but I'm going to park it and just learn about myself more, learn about my triggers, learn about what makes me burn out, and just try and find a way. And that's not because some people need medication, and I might need it again one day. I'm not, against it all, but I'm just going to try and navigate through it. What it has taught me a lot about is you're low on dopamine and you chase dopamine hits. By God. That makes a lot of sense. And for me, what I always had, I had sport as a young kid, and that dealt with my brain because I was that
playing football, scoring goals,
football, progressing a bit, driven, all these things. I was a big overthinker off a football pitch, but it was all about football then. What I've really noticed is I had back surgery a few years ago, and I wasn't able to train, and I thought, wow, this is the best medicine I've ever had. I didn't know that the exercise was helping me so much. So I still have to, my body doesn't perform the same, but I still try. Only this week I've got home to Bex and said, what's the best thing that I need now? I need physical exercise. I've gone to the spin class twice this week. I was nearly throwing up last night. It was that tough. I loved doing it, but by God, I got out of it. I was a different person.
Yeah.
So that for me now is a non-negotiable.
The same thing with me, that mate. I don't do it to look a certain way.
Yeah.
All that nonsense like that. I just go do a hit, and at the end of it, I feel different. Yeah. Like there's calm something down within my head, within the thing.
And the best medicine.
Yeah.
And I say that. Don't get me wrong. What I always say is, because you get a lot of people sometimes that reach out to Wise Up that have got an addiction, and then I offer them some help, or we offer them some help, and they won't take it up, and not take that personal, but then you hear from them a few months later or whatever, and they say they used exercise to deal with it.
They took up running and now they're addicted to running.
Yeah. But it sort of fills a void or keeps you busy, but you're not...
Until you get injured.
Yeah. Well, addictions are... I mean, exercise is an addiction, right? And then... It makes me laugh. I keep seeing these like memes about why do all ex-cokeheads go and climb mountains and do like high rocks, and it makes me laugh because I'm thinking rehab's full of people who are just hammering gym and then they get injured after 3 months and their head falls off and they relapse.
Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah, so it serves a purpose, it's great, but for overall well-being, it's probably the best thing that I've ever found is getting out there. And it doesn't always... Sometimes you can get hooks on things and it costs a bit of money. Ultimately, you can do it at home. Like, just get that heart pumping and it helps. And I ain't someone who there are people fitter than me now. It's hard with my colitis training. I'm on medication. My body doesn't do... My ego's gone. So at spin last night, I go back to... God, a few years ago, I would have been... Well, I used to do... In my 20s, I was doing 2 spin classes back to back in a gym session.
Easy.
Last night I'm blowing out my ass after 1, but the ego's gone. There was a guy outside of me who were probably 70. He was where I was at, and I'm not going, oh God. I'm just thinking, I'll get fitter. And you the race is against yourself, right? Not everybody else. So it's been the best thing I've found. So
anything else happened after that? There's got to be something else that happened after that.
Work took a good turn. We started, we landed some decent contracts. I walked away from one that I didn't feel was right, and that was, I needed the money.
So you needed the money, but you still walked away?
Yeah, 100%.
Talk to me about that, Mark.
They just weren't aligned with what I was doing. Something had happened with...
So you're struggling for money,
but
you still walked away.
Yeah.
How were you able to do that?
A leap of faith. I couldn't see past a few months where money was going to come from, but I just felt like now's the time. And when I did it, I felt great. I thought, actually, there's something in that, and that stepping away from that and the thinking space that it was taking up made me more creative to go out and get some more, and then you land on something that's better and more aligned with who you are as a person.
Mate. Really powerful.
So but it's hard that, because you're thinking, you sometimes, if you can't see past a few months down the line, of thinking, where's this next bit of money coming from? And then so many people were coming in like to my office and thinking, well, with this massive organisation, and oh God, you're everywhere, you're smashing it. And I'm like, well, I'm not. Like, I'm like, I've hit a few brick walls, and shit's been tough, but I try and stay within them values of integrity and the reason I do that is I was full of shit for 13 years. I lied to everyone. I used to get money out of people to get money to gamble with and hopefully win it back and giving them back. And when I started being in business and my word meant something, I've kept on to that. So sometimes with money, I'm a bit like, someone invoices me at like 6 o'clock and I'm having my tea and I'm paying their invoice on phone, because I'm thinking, they go, Jesus Christ, there were 28 days on that invoice, but thank you. It's a bit much sometimes because I'm always overcompensating, but that's what I try and make Wise Up about, being integrity and my word meaning something.
Yeah, being a man of your word.
Yeah.
There's not many of them knocking about, is there?
Yeah, that don't mean I'm always...
I
make mistakes. I make mistakes with people, with the way I react to things. I can be really calm and like kind, which I think is my DNA of like, but then I can react to things and tell people to fuck off. And I'm like, I'm a bit like, I just wear my heart on my sleeve sometimes, and I get it wrong. But I'll say it. I'll say if I got a decision wrong, or sometimes I have to get through it and come out the other side and think, shit. So I'm capable of picking up a phone and going, I got that wrong. But I try and do the right thing. That's what it is. And yeah, work turned a corner, and we've done all right. We've reached our record number of students that we've ever done. We've got a partnership with JD Foundation, which is the JD the charity arm to JD Sports. Won an award since I last seen you for the organisation making a difference. I took my mum on stage. My mum, who I put through hell because of my addiction, who I didn't speak to, or she didn't speak to me for 18 months. What
was that moment like?
Oh, wow. Like, yeah. Look, I'm not good at all them awards things sometimes. I get a bit like, I don't know. People may think there's an ego because I put videos on. I'm not. Like, I get a bit like, they don't sit well with me sometimes, awards things. And there's sometimes we've been nominated, it might sound bad, I don't go to them. Sometimes I get a bit like, is it just about selling a table to us? But I went to this one. My little girl was in hospital with breathing problems. She had a chest infection. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I'm like, I'm not going. I said, how can I go and put a tuxedo on and Elsie's in hospital? She was stable, she was fine. But Bex said, you bloody are going. Bex is working for WHYSUP now. So it was our first night out. I got her a new dress. She never asked for anything. But I'm like, I'm getting you a new dress. She got it. And she's gutted because she's missing it. She's a new member of staff. So I wanted her to see what WHYSUP are doing, sort of thing. And we didn't go. She's in hospital. I'm not going. She said, you're bloody going. Like, you've got a table. Your team are going with you. So we got 10 people on the table, and we got my mum. I genuinely thinking there were some fantastic organisations in it. We're not winning it, and that's not bullshit. When people say, I didn't think we were going to win, I'm like, we're not going to win that against them. They bloody do brilliant work. And they read our name out, and I was like, it was just a bit of an emotional Elsie's been in hospital. I'd had a project with Vimto that day that I turned up at. I still went to work, and I just said to Vimto, I'm not right here. Like, and they were great and said, go and see your little girl. So I went in hospital till about 5 o'clock, went home, put my tuxedo on, went to this awards, where the second award up, organisation making a difference, JD Foundation and WHYSUP. And I just looked round and thought, I didn't know what JD were doing, if they were going to get everyone up and they only got 1 or 2 up. I didn't want to leave anyone out on our table. So I just went, come on, Mum, you come up with me. My mum's like it was Jenny Powell and Scott Thomas, and she got on stage, she's going, I'm his mum. And Jenny Powell's going, it's his mum. But we then had a photograph on stage and got off. And I didn't really see what was going on around me. You're getting clapped and all this. And I'm like tunnel vision at that point. And I just gets this award on table, and we had an hug with the staff at JD are brilliant. And we were like, bloody brilliant. This has come from our ideas of, we've been, awarded for something. And then my mum just turned around and went, I'm so proud. And I know it sounds like cliche of like, it was just this moment. The biggest thing with my addiction is when I was making my mum upset. And as a kid, single mum, no brothers or sisters, me and my mum, it was her I was wanting to make proud. And then she's on every sideline growing up. And me and my mum's relationship through my addiction was destroyed. She had a nervous breakdown. She was coming visiting me on K2 psychiatric ward, and people were waiting outside the ward who I owed money to. She was staying in hotels for her safety because I owed so much money for me gambling. And it's just this full circle moment that now this thing's happening. It wasn't the award of going, oh, I've won this award. It was just like, I've got my mum on stage and she's saying, I'm proud. I'm like, and on the back of that, I took my mum to work a few days after. I said, you come and work with me, you're delivering a session with me. And we went into a rehab last week, and we did an affected others session, and we we just spoke. We didn't. She said, "What's the plan?" I said, "There ain't no plan. I'm going to ask you some questions." And one of the questions were, "Have you forgiven me?" Right? I've never said that out loud.
Fucking hell, Mark.
And she paused. And it threw me a little bit because I wanted to go, "Of course I forgive you. You won that award and you're a brilliant son." And she paused and she said, "Yeah, I have. I'm so happy, but God, I still have nightmares from that time." And I realised that my mum hadn't got help. Like with addicts, there is family support, but usually the parents or the loved ones just want the loved one to get sorted. But where do they go with that trauma? Where does my mum go with all that pain that she went through for all them years? So on the back of us working together, I said, "Well, can I get you some help?" And she went, "Yeah, I think I need it." So we did that at the rehab, and then we did a ketamine awareness group in Wales at night. We're going to do a collaboration with an organisation called the House of Vivian, and it's a girl called Chanel and a mum and dad that have set this group up. And the Vivian was, I didn't know who they were. They were quite famous drag queen and lost their life sadly to ketamine. And we're kicking off a programme with them in schools in Horwich St George in a couple of weeks. But we did their support group at night, and me and my mum again just freestyled it, and wow, there was energy in that room because it was full of mums and loved ones that were in the thick of what I used to be in. And for my mum to say, there's hope, like being hopeless in that stage, you just feel rock bottom. But my mum was able to inspire them parents of saying, like, I was visiting my son on a psychiatric ward. Every time the phone rang, I thought it was going to be someone saying he's taken his own life or he's had his life taken. And we've come out the other side. But the sad reality for some, there isn't an happy ending for some of the more serious addictions if you stay in it. It's death for a lot of people. And that must be hard for Chanel doing this group, and she's just so brave doing it, but she's lost her brother. But maybe in some way she's doing it because of that reason, that she's giving back and trying to make a difference to other people, which is really brave. But I'm trying to say to her as well, you'll need some help and support along the way. So she's a good egg. But yeah, just the job with WHYSUP is so different. We work with schools, with businesses, with rehabs, prisoners. It's not the same session. It's tailored to that audience. You tell your stories in different ways, maybe at school children level to adults to rehabs. But you sort of... Yeah.
But you just walk off intuition when you're doing it, though, don't you?
And reading the room.
Yeah.
Like reading the room.
Which is a gift.
Yeah.
Which is weird because you've got that thing going on with your stomach, but that's where intuition comes from.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's insane really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you think it's off, but it's not actually off. It's actually probably one of your best traits is reading a room and intuition.
Yeah.
Trusting your gut. Yeah. To kind of go, look, Mum, we're going to do this and we're going to do
that's
that.
That's probably why it's shutting down all the time because it's always on overdrive.
Yeah. But it's powerful that, mate, isn't it? That with your mum's just like, it's just blown me that.
Yeah, it's mad. It's like there's a lot happened in the last few years, and sometimes it's like hard to breathe sometimes. And I do feel like the last few weeks I've had a bit of a crash. I've not had one, to some extent, a crash like when Callum was in hospital, just being busy, his kids being unwell, finding it hard being a dad again. The mad thing is when you're a dad, find out you're going to be a dad at 15, and just after my 16th birthday he's born, everyone comes round and helps you. No one's coming helping when you're 39 and become a dad again. They're just thinking, he's all right now, he's older. Well, your head falls off sometimes. And it's funny, being a dad, I've never been close to gambling in 12 years, never even close. But I now look at that front door and remember why I gambled. Because at our house sometimes, 2 kids crying, screaming, but house upside down, and I went from being messy to getting some control back, so I got a bit OCD cleaning. That goes out the window when you've got kids. But sometimes I'm like, wow, this is a pressure cooker. And I look at that front door and think, oh, I remember why I ran out now, but I don't run out. I sit with it. I'm not always perfect with it. We're always reflecting, me and Bex are going, shit, we could do that a bit better, or, oh, I'm sorry for reacting the way I did. We're not screaming at them or being horrible to them, but some days you just think, God, I reacted to that, or you're just always trying to be a better person. But I remember now why I gambled. In a strange way, my phone creeps into that, because some days I'm like, I have an hard day at work, kids are full on, and then at 9 o'clock I'm like jumping on my phone and going, I'll have half an hour on my phone, and before you know it, I'm scrolling on that. And so I have to say to Bex, what am I doing? Like, it's always just...
Got to catch it, haven't you?
Yeah,
You're mindful.
Yeah.
That's what mindfulness is, isn't it?
Self-aware, I think, with anything. With addiction, with mental health, with your habits. Actually saying, this is becoming a problem now, and saying it out loud, and I need to do something about it, that's powerful. Because when you're just in denial, it's not a problem, you bury it and you bury it and bury it, that's when you end up rock bottom, in rehab, or just all over the place. Maybe not so for phones, but I imagine in a few years there's going to be rehabs and clinics everywhere for phones, you know what I mean? There is in other countries. Yeah.
So, how do people get hold of you, mate? If people are struggling, where do they find you? Where should they go? Just tell some of the things that you just summarise it all up for me.
So what people don't know is this is a limited company, but so many people, because it's like social impact and the work that we do in the community, are thinking it's a charity, but it's always been a limited company, but we give a lot back. So ultimately, you can contact WHYSUP if you need any services in schools, businesses. We do a lot of lived experience education, and we've got a lot of services under that. But something that we're looking to launch early next year is the charitable arm, which is WHYSUP in the community, which will be more about that, what you've just said. Yeah. So at this moment in time, or whenever this kit comes out, there's no access for help and support. However, we've got a help page on our website, and we've got loads of partnerships with help and support. I've been on the phone to someone this morning who's been struggling. I still try and do it all the time, and I've always said I need to put barriers in place, but I'm still having coffees with people because to try and help in some way, especially if a mum contacts me, I'm always thinking of my mum and she didn't get, so you help, but hopefully that'll be more formalised over this next 12 months where we'll have support groups, we'll have access to one-to-one support, so it's full circle then. WHYSUP will be about education, awareness, consultancy with some organisations. This over here will be about helping them individuals that need it most. So the idea being, if we go into a business and someone says, I need help, there you go, our charity does that. Yeah. And it's always working in tandem, really. I'm excited about the charity of like making a difference, and I think we're already doing that, but I do love being able to help people who are at that crisis point and being able to do that. And we won't be able to help everyone, and everyone will partner with other fantastic organisations that also offer help. I think that's key when you're working in the charity space as well. It's about collaboration sometimes and working together. But yeah, it's this is a full circle moment in respect of where this building is, because I got brought up not far from here, and two or three doors down, I remember being paid £5 for a full day off this guy that was refurbing that building in the mid-90s. He got me and my mates, no health and safety then, paid us £5, and I went home with a £5. Where have you got that from? I went working on a building site around there, and my mum came round and went mad at this guy, and it's there. But I got brought up around here, so I always do it. And then obviously you were the guys that did this, and this was a game changer for us. Still to this day, people come up to me and go, "What is that?" And people as well think it means WHYSUP. I said it can mean that if you want to mean that, but it's WHYSUP spelt in the way it is. Yeah. But it just gets people talking, and everyone always over the years. I'll be honest with you, that's what I bought off Liam, because there were times where I thought, "Do I just start again?" And I'm like, no, this means something. That logo means something. That brand, people know it now. And that's what I was buying, really. I've had to start again, really, in business. So, yeah, it's been a powerful thing, and I thank you for that and your team, what you did back then.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the fucking best, Mark. Thank you, mate. Thanks for listening, everybody. Goodbye. Tim Marner, what, you're branding with the best. Tim Marner, what, you're branding with the best. Tim Marner, what, you're branding with the best. Tim